The Last Stop, Episode 1. The Train That Vanished. It was a bitterly cold November evening in 1963. Chicago's Union Station buzzed with the familiar chaos of travelers, hissing steam, and the rhythmic clatter of rolling suitcases. People hustled, wrapped in thick coats, scarves drawn tight against the biting wind. Among the crowd, Agent Henry Caldwell, FBI on leave, moved with a quiet purpose, observing. He didn't belong here, yet somehow he did. The train, the Northland Express, the routine journey north to Minneapolis, and the people about to board it all felt off. The platform was alive with farewells. Mothers clutched children tightly. Businessmen checked watches and muttered last-minute instructions into their briefcases. The train loomed ahead, a sleek metal beast, steam curling into the frosty air. The conductor's whistle shrieked, a sound both familiar and ominous. People climbed aboard, unaware of the events about to unfold. Among them, a tall man in his mid-30s carried a worn leather briefcase. His eyes, dark and calculating, scanned the platform, lingering on nothing and everything at once. No one noticed him except perhaps Henry. All aboard. Last call, the conductor bellowed, his voice swallowed by the wind and the hiss of the steam. The train lurched forward, wheels screeching faintly against the iron rails, and disappeared into the darkening night. Snow began to fall, lightly at first, then heavier, frosting the windows, cloaking the world in white. Inside, passengers settled uneasily. The rhythmic vibration of the train became a lullaby for some, a harbinger for others. 2 hours in, the first signs of trouble appeared. The train's radio crackled intermittently, static dominating, punctuated by fragmented words. Northland Express, you're not alone. The message dissolved into hissing silence. Conductor Miller frowned, checking his instruments. That's impossible, he muttered. We should have checked in with the next station 10 minutes ago. But the gauges told a stranger story. Every mile, every checkpoint, the train had passed. Yet no one had recorded it. No response, no acknowledgement. Just absence. Passengers whispered. A mother comforted her child. A businessman muttered to himself. Henry, notebook in hand, watched closely, the unease settling deeper. Something about the air itself felt wrong. The snow outside, the mechanical heartbeat of the train, even the rhythm of the wheels, all felt like a prelude. Something unseen was observing, waiting. Then, a sharp flash of light reflected on the carriage window. A child, wide-eyed, pressed her nose against the glass. Mommy, the lights behind us, they're gone. Her mother smiled uneasily. It's just snow, darling. Don't worry. But Henry's hand tightened on his pen. This was no ordinary winter storm. By midnight, reports of irregularities reached the control stations. Radar showed a faint blip in a desolate stretch of tracks, precisely where the train should have vanished. And then, it disappeared. Static again. No trace. Nothing. The Northland Express had become a ghost. Inside the train, passengers felt a subtle shift. Conversations grew quieter. The man with the briefcase sat still, tapping rhythmically. He wasn't interacting, but his presence felt like a thread tying the unease together. A woman glanced nervously at him, tugged at her scarf, whispered to her companion, "Have you noticed him?" No one dared approach. The air was charged, heavy, expectant. Henry wandered the corridors, notebook in hand, speaking quietly into himself. Every passenger, every movement, something is missing. He observed a teenager sketching frantically in a notebook, drawing abstract lines, almost as if she sensed the anomaly. A young man across the aisle murmured to himself, "It's like time is wrong." Hours passed. The train seemed to stretch and contract, as if caught in a rhythm independent of the physical world. Conductor Miller's logbook recorded entries, yet each page contradicted the other. One line claimed the train passed mile marker 74. The next, 60. Henry's brow furrowed. Numbers didn't lie, yet here they did. In the observation car, the tall man finally spoke. His voice, low, calm, measured, Do you see it? No one responded. No one could. The snow outside pressed against the glass like a solid wall. Lights flickered. Time and distance began to warp in the minds of the passengers. Subtle shifts in their perception made them question reality, but they could not articulate it. Suddenly, a faint voice whispered through the static of the train's intercom. It was distorted, garbled, but chillingly clear. Room not found. Follow the line. Passengers looked around, frightened. Conductor Miller turned dials, pressed buttons, but the voice persisted. No pattern, no origin, just words. Something was reaching into the carriage, through the walls, through the very air. Henry whispered to himself, "This isn't just a disappearance. It's an intrusion." He glanced at the tall man, who now simply stared out the window. The snow reflected a strange hue, a light unseen, almost imperceptible, shifting in rhythm with some unknown signal. At mile marker 92, the train slowed, though no station approached. Lights dimmed, engines hummed unnaturally, and passengers felt a weight pressing on their chests. A child began to cry softly, a sound swallowed by the whispering static. Henry moved closer to the man with the briefcase. "Who are you?" he asked, voice steady but low. The man didn't turn, didn't acknowledge. Only a faint smile, almost imperceptible. The train continued, a phantom slicing through the snow-laden night. Then, suddenly, silence. Absolute. Not a hiss, not a groan, not a click. The kind of silence that feels alive, waiting. Passengers froze. Henry's pen hovered midair. Every heartbeat was audible. The train, if it moved at all, did so in a vacuum. Minutes stretched into hours. The instruments faltered. Outside, nothing existed. No track, no snow, no stars, just void. Then, with no warning, a radar blip returned, not stationary, but moving erratically, tracing a path that defied physics. A blip that suggested a direction, yet led nowhere. Henry Caldwell understood, with a sinking certainty, that the Northland Express had vanished from reality, yet remained somewhere. Somewhere between perception and absence, between signal and silence. The passengers slept, or thought they did. But dreams were invaded. Faces not their own appeared in reflections. Voices they never heard whispered secrets. Every individual aboard sensed a tether. An unseen hand, guiding, observing, shaping. The train was no longer a vessel. It had become a living anomaly. By dawn, the horizon remained unchanged. No towns, no stations, only snow, only silence. And somewhere, deep in the static, a voice echoed, "Follow the line, or be left behind." Henry Caldwell looked at the passengers, one by one, each staring into their own private fear. He knew the investigation had only begun. The Northland Express had disappeared, but its mystery had just begun.